Blocking is work. It's never primarily what you come to a fighting game for, but it's something you have to do, because blocking is the tax you pay for playing a fair fighting game. I do enjoy blocking. That may or may not be because I was forced to endure a gauntlet of characters that gave me no choice, but under particular circumstances, I look like a player that wouldn't block even if it won me £1,000. This kind of circumstance is a frustratingly common one in fighting games. It's when you don't know what the hell is going on. Successful blocking is demanding. It requires intricate knowledge of the opposing character, asking you to quickly discern a specific 24 frames of animation from hundreds of others if you want to block that overhead. Jump out of this string if you don't want to get command grabbed, but don't jump out of this one if you don't want to get command grabbed. Block this move, except you can't block it if it suddenly takes a bit longer than usual to start up. Block this overhead that is hidden amongst a labyrinth of different combo strings, but make sure you actually instant block it for extra plus frames if you want a chance at actually escaping this ongoing block string. You can give blocking your best shot, but without the experience, you inevitably get hit by the knowledge check, and are left to feel like a dummy for trying to play it by the book at all. It doesn't feel fair. You can't expect me to know all that stuff, so in situations like these, of course I mash buttons. Sure, it may not be what's best for me, but it's the only thing I feel like I have the power to do. What, would you rather I wait to get opened up by an attack that I can't see coming? Starting out, this is how I played a lot of anime fighters. I'd do the socially acceptable thing and block on wake up. But after that, I'd mash buttons whenever it felt right. But of course, there was never any basis behind any of the times that it felt right to mash. It got me mixed results, which, to be fair, does mean that it sometimes helped me win, but I also felt bewildered every time. It just sucks not understanding how to fight back, so what else could I have done? What, would you tell me to research the character? Okay, sure, if you don't understand the character you're fighting, the reasonable solution would be to learn about the character. The crappy thing about many fighting games though is that this reasonable solution often involves opening up your web browser, typing the character name plus Discord in a search engine, clicking on the Reddit result that will link you to the character's Discord, reading the server rules, and then asking for help on whatever you're struggling to deal with, and waiting a potential span of minutes or hours before someone hopefully gives you a satisfactory reply. If you know how to ask the right questions, that is. And you wonder why people don't want to block your stuff. Of course a lot of people don't block. It's very hard to do. There's a prevailing meme throughout the FGC where the core of the joke is that people don't block. It's partially warranted. Some of you guys are most definitely obscene in your adamant refusal to ever block. However, my truth of playing fighting games online is that the random players who I come across that treat blocking like some cardinal sin are actually in the minority. Maybe you should take that with a grain of salt. I do mostly stick to playing longtime friends in my fighting games these days, but some games are an exception. For example, Guilty Gear Strive, a fighting game that I loudly and proudly detested for over a year. I'm now back on this roller coaster because I recently discovered that I really like Testament. I like Testament so much that I can ignore what I dislike about Strive, which is everything else, and instead, I just enjoy my matches with random players online. Not in the tower mode though, that thing is so astronomically bad, please change it! These players block. They're not fighting game babies and they're not dumb. Even the people that were clearly new to the genre had the wherewithal to defend themselves. But once I started hitting them with obscure Testament moves, those fingers did not remain on the block button. Of course, I was the same. Being cornered by Zato and subjugated to criminally fast overheads that I was wholly unprepared for was the perfect recipe for sending me into a mashing frenzy. This is how I block Zato when I understand the character. This is how I block Zato when I don't know what the hell is coming. I don't block. At least in this set. I was quick to realize that random mashing wasn't helping me at all, that I'd be better suited to ignoring the bigger picture, winning, and instead focusing on how to conquer this high-low mix-up that the player is relying on. When I succeeded, this Zato player served up something new, but at least I felt better prepared for the next few mix-ups because I was beginning to understand the character. I was content to actually sit there and block. I was learning the entire matchup on the go. I definitely wouldn't have adapted to these mix-ups in a shorter set of about, I don't know, 3 games total? You know, like the pitiful tower system. I'm lucky that we were fighting in the park and had an unspoken agreement of turning the set into a first to 10, where I had ample time to figure this character out. Patience and a willingness to change your perspective are strong tools to have, especially in this rough genre. If you can drop the impulse to hit buttons and always be in control, you can focus on analyzing what is repeatedly causing you to get hit and figure out how you're going to solve that problem. I like the example I used, and there are many instances where I adapt in similar ways, but I can't deny that I got slightly lucky here. This Zato was doing the exact same mix-up over and over until I learned it, almost as if they were teaching me how to block. Even then, the solution was fortunately simple: block high. But good blocking can often have way more complicated solutions. How will you escape Ramlafell's pressure if you don't know that you can't only block that overhead, but that you also must instant block it? How do you handle Chip if you haven't asked in a Discord how to punish his command grab? How do you block Charlotta? I don't know, I learned about a year ago but I've forgotten it all now. How do you defend against all these maybe high, maybe low moves without knowing you need to fuzzy block them? What the hell even is fuzzy blocking? Blocking in fighting games is just rough. Experience will train you and tame you, but there's enough depth to these characters that you'll always be at risk of getting knowledge checked. Don't let this intimidate you though. Take note of the moves that stump you, explore your counterplay, surprise your opponent next time, and enjoy the process. When something new gets in your way, do it again. Find some enjoyment in figuring out how to defend against your opponent, because you're never free of just getting fucked over. Welcome to fighting games. You think I'd give you a pessimistic ending like that? Of course that's not how this ends. Blocking might suck sometimes, but I'd be a fraud if I led you to believe there is nothing you can do. Preparing for every move that may be thrown at you is a fruitless endeavor, but you are never helpless. These are fighting games, where there's always something you can try. Defensive maneuver number 1. Remember your defensive options. Remember any and every defensive option the game gives you. In the heat of gameplay, it's ridiculously easy to forget some of the defensive tools that are gifted to you. When passing so many decisions so quickly, it's hard to remember that it's there, even when it can be exactly what you need to flip the pace of the game. Similarly, a large number of players I run into in several games forget that guard cancels exist. If you play Street Fighter, King of Fighters, Guilty Gear, BlazBlue, Dragon Ball FighterZ, Marvel vs. Capcom, DNF Duel, Under Night In-Birth, Persona 4 Arena, or almost any other fighting game, you probably have a guard cancel. Try and remember that it's there. I know we all have our flaws. Even though I never forget about faultless defense in Guilty Gear Plus or in Xrd, I almost always forget to use it in Strive. Whatever defensive option pops back into your brain, it might not be the best solution you need, but if nothing else is working, you may as well give it a shot. For games that are rich with defensive mechanics like Guilty Gear, you may even benefit from writing down every defensive option that your game has on a piece of paper. When your mind goes blank or you find yourself under dire circumstances, refer to that piece of paper. It is your lifeline. I'm not kidding, I used to write my mini goals on a piece of paper when I played Under Night In-Birth, and I got really good at that game, so please take my advice. Defensive maneuver number 2. Detect your opponent's rhythm. Sometimes your focus shouldn't be what is the mix-up, but rather, when is the mix-up? Characters who play by the rules of fighting game fundamentals typically follow a do mix-up, but at your own risk kind of rule. The overhead that might bonk you, the command grab that might snatch you, and the unblockable that might crush you all have one thing in common: a gap. And wherever there is a gap, there is also an opportunity to mash. Mix-ups aren't strong enough on their own. They are made strong when they're elevated by an unpredictable rhythm. If you're fighting an opponent that has yet to realize this and likes to perform some kind of mix-up, always around the same time in their block string, your job is to detect it. Do they always do 3 buttons, then a mix-up? Is it always jab, jab, mix-up? Don't let these unpredictable rhythms go unpunished. These are the moments where you want to mash. It may lose to frame traps, but if they're not frame trapping you yet, why aren't you mashing yet? If they do adapt and start employing frame traps, then that likely means the mix-ups are absent and their turn is likely to end without any profit. Defensive maneuver number 3. Go apeshit. Listen, I will hate fighting you if you do this to me, but that is exactly why you should do it. The easiest opponent to tame is the one who's too scared to ever go wild. I consider this option a last resort. Hell, I don't even do it because I have some dignity, but if you're really seeing no success, just get messy. Mash random buttons, hold the jump button, spam your DP, stop thinking for a short amount of time. A short burst of playing like a complete lunatic can and will shake up your opponent. I would reserve this for the most dire moments of a set because playing this way is highly risky itself. This is the way you flush out an opponent that is camped inside your head, by emptying your head entirely. And if you have tried every nugget of information that you could find in this video, but you're still getting pounded over and over, you either need to find an opponent of an appropriate skill level, or start unplugging your router when you're matched with set play characters. You don't need to fight these demons. You have a choice. We always do. I kinda wanted to have a video out way earlier than this, but I eventually got a video out, and I really appreciate that you watched it. Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who subscribed over the last video and who liked, and continued thanks to every subscriber, and good luck with the blocking. And remember, none of what I said in this video applies to grapplers.